Hey guys, it's Sandeep from RevAtlas and welcome to a brand new series of videos where we cover the latest news in the world of technology. So this is something that people have been requesting for quite a while now, perhaps even months, and something that we thought we'll give it a shot in case you guys are actually interested. So I request all of you to watch this video and give your feedback at the end of the video as to whether this is something we should continue or stop, or maybe we should bring about a few changes. Based on that, we'll do whatever is necessary to make it work for you guys. So for the first ever episode, I thought of talking a little bit about the announcement of today, which the major announcement was basically the Redmi Note 8 and the Note 8 Pro in China. So these smartphones were announced today, and as the name suggests, the Note 8 is the lower end variant and the Note 8 Pro is the higher end variant. Let's start with the Note 8 first. So as you all know, the Note 7, 7S and 7 Pro have been doing pretty well in terms of sales as well as the overall feedback from users and reviewers. It's been pretty good, particularly in relation to the camera, considering that at that price point you can't get much better. But in recent time you might have seen that the Realme 5 Pro came, which kind of provides similar value, if not more value for money, depending on how you look at things. And that kind of has pushed Xiaomi also to maybe expedite their smartphone release cycle this year, and hence we have the Redmi Note 8 and Note 8 Pro. So to start things off, the main difference compared to the previous generation is that now we get a bunch of more cameras in terms of the pure camera count. The Note 7 series, the Pro and the non-Pro models both had dual camera setups, where the primary camera was the Sony IMX586 on the Note 7 Pro, and the regular ones had the Samsung GM1, which is also a 48 megapixel sensor, but you only got a depth sensor along with it, which also works fairly well. But considering that you can't really use it for anything else like ultra wide angle camera or something like that, it doesn't really provide much versatility in terms of capturing photos. So now with the new camera setup, what you get is on the Note 8 you get a 48 megapixel Samsung GM2 sensor. So this is an update to the GM1 sensor that was there on the Note 7S, for example, and it kind of improves on many things. In theory at least, and we need to see how well it does in practicality, whether there's improved low light performance, better sharpness, detail, etc. But on paper at least, it is an improved sensor. Apart from that, you get an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, you get a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. So the other cameras are pretty much in line with what Realme is offering, say with the Realme 5 Pro, but the difference here is that instead of using the Sony IMX586 sensor, it's using the GM2 sensor. Now, we did see in the past that the GM1 sensor was inferior to the Sony IMX586, but now with the GM2, it remains to be seen whether that's still the case or whether Samsung has done enough tuning to make it worthwhile and make it better than the 586, or at least on par. Other than that, you get a 6.3-inch 1080p IPS panel. It's powered by a Snapdragon 665 chipset, which is the same as the Mi A3 that was announced recently, and also the Realme 5. And in terms of the overall design itself, they've gone for quite a bit of a change, at least in the back panel terms. In front it looks pretty much similar. You have the water drop notch, whatnot, and the display with similar chin size as well, and the overall bezels on the Note 8. But the back panel is a bit more curved. So if you look at the Note 7 Pro, you would remember that although it had the glass both at the front and the back, the Corning Gorilla Glass 5, it was flat. You had slightly tapered 2.5D edges here, but it was not 3D curved. So when you look at the phone such as the Mi A3, you would notice that the edges actually more tapered and it has a 3D feel and look to it, and that's where they're going even with the Redmi series now with the Note 8 and Note 8 Pro. So the colors are also pretty interesting. You get white, black, and space blue, I think it's called, for the Note 8, and space blue seems to have a gradient effect going on, and it's not quite as different as the K20 Pro series, but it's still pretty nice to see a different sort of effect coming into the the colors and the overall build quality as well. Apart from that, it comes with the 4000 mAh battery as usual. 18-watt fast charging is there. You get audio jack. You get 4 GB 64, 6 plus 64, and 6 plus 128 GB options. And the pricing in China right now, where it's announced, starts at Chinese yuan 9,999, which is roughly rupees 10k. So seeing how in the past also they've maintained sort of the same pricing in India, if this comes, it would be possibly the cheapest phone with a 48 megapixel sensor that is under the sub K price range. That's pretty interesting. The 665 chipset has been good so far on the A3, but I do see some sluggishness at times. That could be due to lack of optimization on the Android One front and not exactly, the issue with the processor itself. It's 11nm chipset. It should be good coupled with the 4000 mAh battery and MIUI optimizations. But the Note 8 is more likely an underdog, and most people would be looking forward to or wanting to buy the Note 8 Pro. So first things first, the major change in the Note 8 Pro is the fact that it has a 64 megapixel camera. So this is the first smartphone in the world that comes with a 64 megapixel camera. It's a GW1 sensor from Samsung, and it also makes use of pixel binning, just like the 48 megapixel sensors that you see, in order to get a larger combined pixel size. So this should result in good low-light photography, better sharpness, better detailing, etc. But how it performs in real life, we'll have to wait and see whether it's actually inferior to the 48 megapixel sensors from Sony and Samsung, or whether it's actually better. The main reason for this is that generally when there's more pixels involved, the larger the amount of noise, and low-light performance also takes a hit as a result. The other three sensors remain the same. You get an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, 2 megapixel depth sensor, and 2 megapixel macro camera as well. Now the front camera is also a bit different. It's a 13 megapixel camera on the Note 8, and on the Note 8 Pro it's actually a 20 megapixel camera. How they perform again needs to be seen. More megapixels does not always necessarily mean it's better. Now some people did expect a pop-up camera and have a clean bezel-less and no notch or display cutout sort of display on the Note 8 Pro, but what we get is still a water drop notch. But you do get a larger screen, a 6.53 inch IPS panel compared to 6.3 inch one on the Note 8, and that should result in better experience when gaming, viewing content, etc. And you also have a larger battery this time, 4500 mAh compared to the 4000 mAh on the Note 8. And this too supports 18 watt charging, by the way. But the most interesting or perhaps controversial aspect of the Note 8 Pro would be the chipset that is using. So instead of using a Snapdragon chipset from Qualcomm, which most of the manufacturers go to, back at the end of July, we saw Xiaomi come out during the event where MediaTek was announcing the chipsets that they would soon launch a phone that makes use of the MediaTek G90T chipset. So this too is an octa-core chipset, and according to the AnTuTu scores and the Geekbench scores, the performance is around 10% better, right? Compared to the Snapdragon 730 and 730G. But the mindset of consumers, especially in India, is that MediaTek chipsets are usually inferior. And while that is true for the most part, it does not mean every single chipset is actually worse. So take for example the Realme One, the first ever Realme device that was launched. That came with a MediaTek Helio P60 processor, which on paper was really good, and in practice too, it was extremely good. So it could, perform CPU tasks really well and did ace speed tests compared to many other smartphones in its segment, and even higher up in a segment because of the capabilities of the chipset. So I'm guessing that the G90T could also be really good, which is why Xiaomi has gone for it. But the main issue would be kind of eliminating the stigma that people have in their brain that MediaTek chipset necessarily is a downgrade compared to a Snapdragon chipset. So there could be some incentive, both in terms of cost as well as some other benefits that Xiaomi is getting by using the MediaTek processor, and could be that it is actually a better processor than the 730. They might have tried and tested it, and that's why they went for it finally. But at the end of the day, that's what we are probably going to get in India as well, unless they totally decide to change things in India by going the Snapdragon route, which could be interesting as well. And considering that 10% is not that much of a difference in terms of performance, some people might actually prefer that as opposed to a MediaTek chipset, but let's just wait and see what happens. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. USB Type-C, audio jack, you get different colors. There's a nice jade green color which looks really beautiful on the Note 8 Pro, and this is usually reserved for, I think, higher end devices such as the Mi Mix 3, which had a beautiful, I think, jade or sapphire kind of color. We saw a similar color with the Realme 5 Pro, but this one doesn't seem to have a gradient on the Note 8 Pro, at least not from the pictures, but it remains to be seen how it looks in real life. The release of these phones, by the way, the pricing of the Note 8 Pro is 1399 yuan, which is roughly 13,999 in Indian rupees. And if they continue the same trend, again we'll get it at roughly 14,000 rupees, which was the price point of the Note 7 Pro to begin with. That would be an interesting price point and could potentially be a huge success for Xiaomi as well. So this too, along with the Note 8, will go on sale in September in China. No specific details regarding the date available, at least not that I know of, and maybe they'll give more clarity about it soon. But considering the past experiences, how it's generally taken a month to a month and a half sometimes, the earliest we could see is end of September, and maybe we could see it sometime in October in India. So the phones seem promising, at least in terms of this performance, the changes compared to the camera and the battery life and stuff. I'm more excited for the Note 8 Pro. The Note 8 is okay. I mean, the changes are not that dramatic compared to the previous generation. In the Note 8 Pro, you get a totally different chipset, which could go both ways depending on how you look at it. You get a bigger battery, you get new, more versatile cameras, as well as a higher pixel count camera, which, if it works well, could be a total game changer again, just like the Note 7 Pro was. So Xiaomi has been getting this right for quite a while now, and this Note 8 Pro is the first to use the GW1 sensor, so we don't have really a benchmark or sort of basis on which we can look at and say that, hey, this is going to perform this way, because this is the first time it's being used in a smartphone. So there is a chance it could go well, there's a chance it could go badly, and a lot of it also depends on the software and processing and stuff that each manufacturer bundles into the camera app. So quite promising, quite interested in these things, and that's about it for this video. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. If you have any feedback about this particular video, again, do let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this video. See you again in the next one.